and welcome to this February 24th, 2020. This podcast is going to be about quantum healing, quantum energy, and so forth. And if you don't know anything about quantum energy, it's not something that I invented or anything that I thought up myself. I am just giving it that name because I feel like that is what fits best with what I do. So it's really more or less kind of like when I say healing, it's not that I do healing, but it's giving you information so you can take the steps to heal yourself. So it's really biofeedback done at a distance, which there are many different types of modalities that can do things at a distance, like Reiki, muscle testing, and so forth. So this is just another unique way to find out what's going in your body. So quantum meaning, the universe is made up of energy. Our bodies are made up of energy. Everything has a certain vibration within the body, the skin, the bones, all the ligaments, the muscles, the tissues, the cells, the atoms. Everything has a specific energy vibration. So what I do is I connect with people from a distance. So we connect with people online through Zoom and try to determine where your imbalances are. Okay. So we have imbalances. So I don't feel like, we give them disease names, like cancer and so forth, but I think most of these disease names are really imbalances. They're either nutritional imbalances or environmental imbalances and even emotional imbalances. And you can have either one of those, you can have two of those, or you can have all three of them. And so what I do is I determine at a distance through a program that I have, I connect with you energetically, spiritually, to find these imbalances within your body. So for instance, if you have something going on in your body, maybe a headache or something like that, and you don't know really where it's coming from, because in essence, a headache, there can be so many, a handful of reasons why you're getting headaches. And, you can try to do different things, but if you have tried things over and over and you've been to the doctors and they're just giving you a prescription pill and the headache, still hasn't gone away, and you really want to know why you're having a headache. So that's where I come in. That's where I step in, and I connect with you intuitively and spiritually, and then go down like a laundry list of different things from this program. And it could be something I'll just throw something out there. I'm not saying that this is one of the things that causes headaches, but blood sugar, okay? Bioaccumulation. Could be something toxic going on in your body. You don't know. Circulation, dehydration, a food allergy, something to do with genetics, something to do with, the heat, something to do with your lymphatic system, and so forth. So this program that I have, I bought a few years ago, and I was taught how to use it by the inventor, and you can look him up, his Dr. Curtin out of Utah. And I was really fascinated by this because I was led to becoming a health coach from my mom's illness with cancer back in the mid-90s. So I'll get into that a little bit more, but going on this biofeedback, I had an office into which I had some clients, being a health coach and trying to find people's imbalances as well as the balances. We want to know what the balances were, the balances as well as the imbalances. But so I was doing this in person in an office setting, and how we connect with people that way. You're tapping on the meridian line while they're holding this brass utensil, like a tube in their hand, in one hand, and it's moistened by a paper towel, and then you put water on their opposite finger and you tap it, and every 1 to 2 seconds you get a reading on this biofeedback program. And so that gives you an energy level, what's going on within the body on an energetic level. So you can have a range from 0 to 100. And so you break that down, from 0 to 44 is like a chronic. It's been like that, like for instance, if you've had internal stress for a long period of time, it will show up either, from 0 to 44, depending on how chronic you are. So something that is like 40 to 44, it still means that you've been experiencing that for a long time. But as you get closer to 0, that's really where it gets pretty, I don't want to say dangerous, but really chronic. And that's something that you should really pay attention to. Okay. So 0 to 44 is a chronic stage. And then 45 to 55 is your balance stage. That's where you want to be. That's where most, where we hope that we're going to be. But again, most of us do have imbalances, even myself. So, and then you get, after the balance stage, if you don't fall into one of those two categories, then there's the severe stage, which is 56 to 100. And again, that means that there's something going on energetically with that reading, reading that, that when I tap on your finger and I get that reading, it's that quick. It gives me an answer that quick, because energy is all around us. It's 24/7. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't change. It doesn't disappear. It's just always there. But when you're checking the energetic level within the human body, you could be at a low energy level. For instance, if you're just eating processed food for a long period of time and you're just you can't seem to wake up in the morning. You have a hard time. You're dragging yourself to get up out of bed. And then you kind of like, maybe you swig down a few cups of coffee to try to get your energy going, but then that wears off and you start to like, having difficulty focusing or just keeping your energy up. You want to take a nap. Maybe 11 o'clock, just before noon, you go to, if you're at work, and then you go to lunch and you're just like, you feel like you just have no energy. So there's something going on within your body that needs attention. And so that's what I do. And it's not something, like I said, it's not something that I invented. I just learned how to do it. And I wanted to help people become balanced, because that's what the goal is to become balanced. And I myself I find myself imbalanced sometimes. So when I test myself, I can be missing several minerals that are related to energy. Okay, so there's a ton of minerals that we could be missing. We could be depleted in as many as 15 to 20. I've had clients that have been depleted, and as well as vitamins, and we look at fiber and amino acids enzymes. All of those things are needed for the human body to function in a very high energy level. And I enjoy finding these so I can help people get back on track to having more energy and just fixing the problems that that when they're imbalanced, and they can become balanced. And it's so fun to do that too, because it just, I don't know, it just gives me joy. So one of the reasons why I started doing this and why I became a health coach is because of my mom when she was diagnosed with lung cancer. So there's a backstory to that, and I don't want to really get too much into that, but I wish this is something that I had back then, because I would be able to determine what's wrong with your body. Okay, so so she had cancer, so I could have tapped into her body to find out why her body is developing cancer cells. So from my knowledge, we all have cancer cells. It just determines what makes them multiply in a very fast pace. So that's basically what happened to her. And, I would take her to her oncology appointments, and, she would have chemo, right? And one of her good friends had told her about this herbal tea that she says, if you drink this, you will have the cancer will go away. And I was probably in my 30s back then. And, I really wasn't, believing it one way or the other. I just, was like, well, why not go for it? If this is what it states, sure. But again, I didn't have much knowledge about where cancer comes from. It's like, I always was thinking, I remember thinking as a young girl, not then, but before that, it's like, how do people get sick? Like, how do people get cancer? It's like, is it like something floating in the air? And they just inhale it? Because it just didn't make sense to me if people are just eating normally and stuff like that. But anyways, she started drinking this tea, and she would go to her oncologist appointments. And sure enough, the doctor would come out with her report and said, oh, your tumor shrunk. And I remember that expression on his face that he had. It was like he was surprised. And I remember looking at my mom, and she had this big smile on her face, and she just like winked at me. And I knew what that wink meant, is like, it wasn't the chemotherapy that was making the tumor shrink. It was the tea. And I'll give you the name of the tea because, I believe everybody deserves to have the best health. And so it's called Essiac Tea, Essiac, I think. So if you've heard about that, you know how it came to be. A Canadian nurse, her name was Cassie. And so Essiac is her name spelled backward. And she was curing people of cancer back in, I think it's like the early 1900s or something like that. I'm not really sure on the year, but she was eventually, I think, shut down by the pharmaceutical company in Canada. I think that's how the story goes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but, my mom, when she was drinking this tea, the one thing that her friend told her is like, since she's had chemo, and again, I did not understand how chemo works. I didn't know anything about it. Her friend told her, don't stop drinking the tea, because if you do, when you're on chemo, the cancer will come back faster and harder, and it will basically kill you. Because I don't know if she told her that the chemo destroys all your, good and, even all the good cells and your good bacteria and stuff like that. But, that's what it did. It destroyed everything. So she didn't have any immune system when she was taking chemo. So she did stop drinking the tea, and her friend's words, became true. It killed her. So that was probably my lesson in my biggest lesson in health that kind of stuck with me. It's like I started understanding how the body works, what it needs, what it doesn't need, what's going on. And so I've kind of like self-taught myself and researched a lot of things about how the body works and what it needs to become balanced. And I don't like to say names of diseases because I just feel like the body is just out of balance. Whether it's, if you're, let me give you an example. So if you're like, I'll give you myself as an example. If you are going through life and you're, taking care of small kids, you have a lot of stress going on. You are eating on the run. You're not eating very healthy. And, you are just using all kinds of chemical, cosmetics and, products on the market. And, you start developing maybe a headache or rashes and things like that. Your body's out of balance and you don't really know where the imbalance is coming from because you've eaten poorly for so long. You've used toxic chemicals for so long. You've had these emotional stresses for so long. And it's kind of like a conglomeration of everything, right? So one of the nutritional things, like I said, was when I've tested people, a lot of them are missing their electrolytes. The electrolytes are so important, and the electrolytes are magnesium and calcium and sodium and potassium. And if you're missing one of those on a really extreme chronic level, you could be having certain issues, health issues, low energy, because you need all of those electrolytes. But good thing there's all those electrolytes. You have so many of them because if you fail to if your body fails to have one of those, you have like backup. But if you're missing all of them, okay, then you're in trouble. So that's what I do is I find these imbalances within the human body in the different body systems and the different body functions. So the different body systems would be classified as the nervous system, the reproductive system, the muscular system, immune system, digestive, circulatory, endocrine, all those systems. And so what I do is I start at the top and I work my way down and I look for things in common. Okay. So then we get down to the body functions like absorption. That's a body function. Your body's needs to absorb, for instance, like water and minerals and vitamins and all of those nutritional micro and macronutrients, right? Blood sugar. It checks whether or not your blood sugar is imbalanced, okay? It also checks cardiovascular, connective tissue, drainage. Oh my gosh, there's so many different body functions. It can give you information on allergies, food allergies. It can give you information on, here's one. Let's see, whether or not you have an infection. Okay. Soap. I had one client to where soap came up high up on her chart. I believe it was, if I remember correctly, it was like red. So it wasn't like chronic, but it was red, meaning it was severe. And she had this like rash on her face. So what I told her is like, the soap you're using, what soap are you using? And the soap, it's just like, that's just a generic term. It's not going to tell me exactly specifically if it's a hand soap or, if it's a body wash or, dishwashing soap and stuff like that. But you have to know what things that you're using too. So you kind of have to give me information on, what types of things that you're using. So she gave me information. She says, oh, I'm using like a certain brand name. Well, that was like, the problem. I said, you need to go and you need to find a soap that has no strong chemicals for the smell and colors. You need to find something that's just very generic and very plain. And, let's see what happens. And sure enough, that's what she did. And the bumps on her face went away. So her body was telling me that this is the problem. The reaction I got from the machine, the thing telling me that it was soap, was her body telling me the soap is not agreeing with me. My body doesn't like the soap. And so when she changed it and her rash went away, she was extremely happy. So, but that was just one thing. There was a few other things that we worked on. And so it was just very exciting. And I was like very happy that she found something to help her. Because, she was a young girl, young teenager. And, it's disheartening to have a rash on your face that won't go away. You don't know why it's there. But the biofeedback was her body, I was getting an answer from her body when I would tap her finger. And it told me the soap. There's something on with the soap that she was using. But now I don't have an office. So one of the things that Dr. Curtin explained, and I wasn't all for this. I didn't understand it at first. I was like totally a denier, or I was just like thinking he was, wacko. But he said that this can be done when somebody is at a different location. And it's like, what? What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. It was just weird. It was like, I didn't believe it. I was a skeptic. Yep. And I was a skeptic until I tried it. And I was like, kind of nervous about doing it, but I did it. And it came up the same information. So somebody who is sitting in front of me and I'm testing them online, testing them in person, you test them from, their home. They're at their home and we connect with each other on Zoom. And I'm at my place and I do the same thing. I'm just using myself as a surrogate. And I connect with them intuitively and spiritually and energetically, and I get the same readings. I was like, I don't know how it works. I remember I called him and I said, I understand how it works, but can you explain to me so I can explain to my clients how it works? And, he's a physicist. He used to work for NASA. And I was expecting this, long, drawn out, very intellect answer. And do you know what he said to me? He said, Susan, we don't really know how it works. And I was like, what? What do you mean you don't know how it works? So that's what he said to me. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to explain this to people? So I've listened to a lot of things about the quantum field of energy and the quantum theory and the quantum this and the quantum that. Everything quantum except, of course, quantum jumping. That was a TV show back in the 90s, I think. But we don't do quantum jumping. We're not there yet. But quantum energy, the quantum field of energy, the quantum, I don't know, just quantum. But that's kind of like the energy in the air. It's like an invisible energy that is ongoing 24/7, 7 days a week. It's just always there. And it's just kind of like, I want to say Albert Einstein called it spooky at a distance. I think if you can Google that, and you can Google spooky at a distance, and I'm pretty sure that's kind of like around the same type of meaning that we're going for. Quantum energy, quantum field, spooky at a distance. So I think Einstein's spooky at a distance just means that cells that are apart can be activated when they're like in a different area. I think he took like a cell and split it or something like that, and they were acting the same, but they were in different rooms or they were in different locations. So it's along those lines that we are gravitating towards how this works. So look that up, spooky at a distance. It's fascinating. And, this is for people who, gosh, when I had my office, I would have people come in and they've been to, doctors for years, and the doctors just don't know what's going on with them, because they do certain tests, that are akin to the medical industry, right? So, but this is kind of like energy, body energy, quantum energy, vibrational energy, okay? It's not, people might think it's kind of woo-woo out there, but, I even thought it was kind of woo-woo out there. But then I saw it in action. And, coming from a former NASA physicist, you kind of like, well, I don't think he would like make this stuff up, right? So, so it's pretty interesting to find out what's going on in the body on a cellular level. There's other things that can come up too. One of the big things is emotions. And I really enjoy, I shouldn't say really enjoy, but I like helping people figure out what's going on, So emotions that comes up. There's like 120 different emotions that we can test for. And why we look at emotions, because emotions can have an effect on your overall general health. And how that works is like, we all know, we've all heard doctors say like stress and things like that. So you could have, stress from, a recent death or past, childhood trauma or recent trauma. You could have stress from somebody who betrayed you, or you have just pent up anger within you. You don't know why. Okay. Or you have anxiety. And so when I go down the emotional charts and I check each emotion and find out which emotion is most severe. Which emotion are you hanging on to? Because sometimes we don't know, because sometimes the emotions are hidden in the subconscious mind. And maybe we forgot about things that happened to us, when we were children or teenagers, or just something that we think that we've, let go of it, but we really haven't. And so I find these emotions, which are, I don't always know which emotion, what it's related to. And sometimes the client doesn't know either. And sometimes they can figure it out after a few days. So we kind of go over the emotions and the ones, the major ones that come up, in a chronic or a severe state. The balanced ones we don't really look at. It's just the ones that come up chronic or severe. And sometimes these emotions aren't really related to your personal body, your personal mindset, your personal being, okay? Sometimes it can be related to somebody else. I'll give you an example. When I first got this and I was practicing, I practiced on my kids, all right? So one of the emotions that came up is kill, Kill, yeah. So I was told by Dr. Curtin that the emotion could mean your personal emotion, or it could be emotion from somebody else, okay? So an example would be when I tested my son, he was 14 at the time, kill came up as the highest emotion. And I'm like, what? My sweet boy, 14-year-old sweet boy was like, kill? So how I interpreted it was, okay, you can interpret it as, does he want to kill somebody? Or does he think somebody's trying to kill him? Or, this one kind of blew my mind. Does he have like compassion? I don't want to say compassion, but does he think there's so much killing going on in the world that he's affected by it? And so that kind of worried me, right? Because, in the news, there's all types of killings going on. Every time you turn it on, and it's like murders and things like that. So I was wondering if he was affected by that. And there was another thing that I was kind of relieved that it wasn't that third one, but I knew what it was. It was like he was playing these Xbox games. And what do you do in the Xbox games? You go around, you kill people, and people try to kill you. So I'm like, oh my God, that was like, I was flabbergasted, to be honest with you. I was like, if I can pick up on that energy in his subconscious as the most detrimental emotion that's affecting him, that's affecting his thoughts, this is like amazing. Now, he's not the type of kid that will, I wasn't worried about him playing the games and turning into some kind of monster. No, because he was just full of love, and he was sweet. He just enjoyed playing that. He didn't really, when he played the games, he wasn't like, I'm going to kill you, like he was just playing it for fun. But there are some kids who play this and they absorb all that energy, and that's where you have the problems. But he's 16 now, and almost going to be 17 in July, okay? And he's not at all, he still plays the games, but he's still as sweet as, can be. So I'm not worried about that. But some of the other emotions that can come up is low esteem. This is really a good one for helping teenagers if that comes up. So then you have something to you open the door to let's talk about what's going on with your self-esteem, obsessive, rejecting, remorse, ruthless. So there's tons of emotions to figure out, and all of these all of these emotions can be a burden on your energy, your vibrational energy. So you need to understand how to release those and let it go. When I had my office, I had one lady who had a lot of all of the emotions that came up were in like a chronic stage. All of them came up. She was not balanced in not one emotion was she balanced in. And I was like, I didn't know what that meant until she told me that she was, I wouldn't say she was a workaholic, but she was working like 60 and more hours a week. And she didn't have any time for herself. She didn't have any time for her family. So basically she was just waking up in the morning, going to work, working 10, 12-hour shifts, going home and going to bed and doing this, just keep repeating it. She did not have any time for any emotions to enjoy her life. Okay? So that's how you kind of have to read that. If they all come up chronic or severe, you have to, tell me about what your work, what you do in a day. And so when she told me that she works 60 hours a week, I'm like, well, that's it. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't get these emotions back, but you have to understand that I'm getting a reading that you have no emotions because you have no time for happiness and joy and fun and love and all of that stuff. So do you know what she did? She ended up quitting her job. It was like an eye-opener for her. She had to quit her job so she can get her emotions back, her energy back. So that was pretty fascinating. And I've talked to her since, and she's doing great. She's doing much better. And I tested her and on some of the other things, and she's improved much over the period of time from the first time. So, let's see. So emotions is one thing. Environmental issues is another thing. So one of the environmental things that can come up, there's so many different things, right? You have the chemicals, you have heavy metals, pollens, you have radiation, you have the stuff that comes, what's that stuff comes from the computer? You have geopathic stressors. We're all bombarded from that. Just walking out the door, you have, all that 5G going around. We're all being harmed by that. But you have to understand, how do you cleanse yourself, or how do you get rid of that from your body? So that is some of the environmental things that can be going on. And then, there's tons of chemicals. You might be using a chemical or putting chemicals in your body. You don't think there's any harm being done to you. And in retrospect, when you get your reading, you're going to be amazed at what your body is trying to tell you, what's going on with your body. And you have, chemicals like fluoride. You have, some of them hexane. All right. You have, what do they call it? Phthalates. You have lead. Gosh, there's so many different sulfates, silicone, triclosan. Oh my gosh, there's so many different, if you're putting a ton of product on your body, from soap, makeup, body lotion, hairspray, hair product, all that stuff is being absorbed in your body. And eventually it may not, if you start using a product with all these chemicals, it may not happen. It won't happen overnight. It takes years for this stuff to build up. And you won't put your finger on, 10 years ago when you started using the product, go, aha, that's what's causing me. When you go to the doctors, they won't tell you that's what it is, but that's what biofeedback does. That's the quantum healing that I'm talking about. And again, it's like, I'm not healing you. I'm giving you the information so you can take the proper steps to heal yourself. Because I can't heal you. Only you have to heal yourself. You have to be responsible for your own, wellness, your own health. Nobody else is going to do that. And I can't force you. If I give you something, recommend a mineral to take, I can't force you to take it. You have to be the one to be able to take it on your own. If you want to get better, if you want to feel your best with the highest level of energy and just feel happy when you wake up and, if you want that, you have to find that within yourself and strive for that and take the steps to do that. I can't do that for you. Nobody can. It's like when you go to the doctor and you get a prescription, he can't force you to take it, but, you take it because you think it's good for you, right? You know that you're going to get better. So, but this is kind of like, I'm not prescribing anything. I'm just like recommending, giving you the information, and hopefully that things that, if you're like on any kind of, medication, you better know the interactions of those, because I don't know them. But I'm just giving you information to take, like minerals and vitamins and amino acids and stuff like that. I'm not giving you any prescriptions, but I'm doing it the natural way. So my goal is to help people become balanced from an imbalanced state to a balanced state. So this is something that is, like I said, it's done online. It takes about an hour, 60 to 70 minutes, 75. Sometimes I go over it because I just get so involved and there's information that's still coming up that I want to get out to you. But then we talk about it. What do you need to do to become balanced so you can, heal properly? And there's different processes, not only just eating better, but all different types of steps to take so you can become balanced. And that's what I'm, helping people do. And so if you need help in that area and you don't know what's going on, find the link and set up an appointment and, ask questions. Definitely you need to ask questions. And I like to have people, bring a padded paper and a pen and they write down notes as they're going. You don't need to, but, things that might strike you and you want to remember, you want to not take tons of notes, but just write down things for your own memory and things like that. But in the end, when we finish all of this, you do get a printout and we go over your printout and what's imbalanced and what's balanced. So you can start taking the steps to become balanced. All right, so that's my podcast for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, drop me a line and find the link to be able to have your first online session, your quantum energy healing session. Thank you so much.